We stand at a crossroads, where the path forward demands a choice.
The Galactic Council chamber stood at the heart of a city that was older than most stars. Its dome shimmered like liquid crystal, a monument to peace built after centuries of conflict between worlds. Within its walls, light from distant suns filtered down, falling across rows of delegates who represented empires, tribes, and alliances spread across the galaxy. On this day, the chamber was unusually restless. A new species had recently taken its seat at the table of the Council, humans of Earth. The humans were young by galactic standards. Their homeworld was still divided into nations, and their technology, though clever, could not yet match the ancient powers who had walked among the stars for thousands of years. And yet humanity had earned respect quickly. They had negotiated trade with speed, adapted to alien environments with ease, and spoken in voices that carried both humility and confidence. But there was something else about them, something that stirred. Whispers in the chamber long before the meeting began. Their guards, every delegation in the council chamber brought protectors. Some came armed with plasma rifles that could burn holes through steel. Others carried energy shields that glowed faintly as they moved. The insectoid Krava guards clicked their sharpened claws together, eager to strike if danger approached. The towering Xanthi warriors, covered in living armor, stood like statues with their weapons at the ready. But the humans, their guards were different. They wore deep blue uniforms trimmed with silver at the shoulders. Their boots shone as if polished every morning. Their faces were calm, unreadable but not cold. They moved with the discipline of soldiers, yet they carried no weapons at all. No rifles, no blades. Not even a hidden device could be sensed by the chamber's scanners. To the council, it was a mystery, and mysteries bred suspicion. Delegates leaned toward one another, whispering in tones too soft for translators to catch. Some claimed the humans had discovered a way to hide weapons from scans. Others suggested the humans were arrogant, believing themselves so safe under the council's laws that they did not even bother with protection. A few simply thought it foolishness. Why bring guards who cannot fight? One reptilian envoy muttered to his companion. If danger comes, they will fall before they can even lift a hand. Another envoy, a tall avian creature with feathers like polished glass, tilted her head in thought. Or perhaps, she said softly, they carry something greater than weapons, something we cannot yet see. The murmurs grew louder as the meeting prepared to begin. At the center of the chamber stood the great circle of light where the envoys gathered. The chair of the council, an elder being whose form shimmered like smoke held in place by invisible threads, struck the ceremonial gong. The sound rang out like 1,000 bells, silencing the hall. The council's session began. One by one, speakers rose to share matters of trade, of borders, of disputes that simmered like embers threatening to become flames. Yet the eyes of many still drifted toward the human delegation. Their envoy, Ambassador Alara Miles, stood with quiet dignity. She was not tall, not imposing, but when she spoke, her words carried weight. Behind her stood 4 guards, their hands folded neatly in front of them, eyes scanning the chamber. They did not fidget. They did not whisper. They did not even shift their feet, and always they carried no weapons. Finally, when a pause came in the agenda, the chair of the council spoke. His voice was like wind moving through glass, soft yet resonant. Before we proceed, he said, there is a matter of curiosity that has unsettled this chamber for some time. Humanity has brought itself with grace to our table, and we welcome you. Yet a question remains, one whispered in corners but never spoken aloud. The chamber stirred. The chair continued. Why do your diplomatic guards carry no weapons to our meetings? Silence followed. The question hung in the air like a blade. Dozens of eyes in every shape and color imaginable turned toward the humans. Ambassador Miles did not appear surprised. She had expected this question. She looked to her guards briefly, then back to the assembly. A small, calm smile touched her lips. They carry no weapons, she said gently, because they already carry what they need. Her words were simple, almost too simple. The council shifted in confusion. Delegates exchanged puzzled glances. Some scoffed quietly, believing it an evasive answer. Others leaned forward, curiosity deepening. What do you mean? Asked a delegate whose body shimmered like living crystal. All species need defense. Even peace requires force. What protection do your guards offer without weapons? But Ambassador Miles did not explain. She only inclined her head respectfully and said, "Perhaps in time you will understand." The chair, wise and patient, did not press further. "Then let us continue," he said, and the meeting resumed. Yet though voices filled the chamber again, though reports and treaties were read aloud, the minds of many were elsewhere. The mystery of the humans lingered, a question unanswered, and questions had a way of spreading through the council like ripples through water. As the session drew to a close, the delegates departed. Some hurried to their quarters, eager to send messages home about trade or disputes, but others lingered, watching the humans as they walked calmly out of the chamber. Their guards close behind, the Xanthi warrior chief, nearly 3 meters tall and armored in plates grown from his own body, muttered to his second-in-command. They stand in the shadow of danger with no steel in their hands. It makes no sense. A soldier without a weapon is not a soldier at all. The avian envoy, overhearing this, tilted her head once more. "And yet," she whispered, "they did not look afraid." The whispers followed the humans into the corridors, into the streets, into the stars. Some called them foolish, others arrogant, but a few began to wonder if perhaps the humans carried a kind of strength no weapon could match. And so the question spread across the galaxy. Why do human guards carry no weapons? No one knew. Not yet. But the answer was coming, and when it came, the Council and the galaxy itself would never forget it. The session of the Galactic Council had ended, but the question left behind was louder than any speech. Across the chamber, across the shining corridors of the Council city, and across the worlds connected by trade and politics, one mystery grew like a spark catching fire. Why did the human guards carry no weapons? At first it was only a curiosity, a topic spoken of in small circles. Delegates would mention it as they dined in tall towers overlooking the crystal seas of the Council's capital. Some laughed at the thought, calling it nothing more than human arrogance. Others shook their heads, thinking it a dangerous mistake. Yet like all good mysteries, it did not fade. Instead, it grew stronger with every retelling. Soon whispers filled the chambers of power in distant empires, drifting far beyond the city where the Council sat. The rumors on the mineral-rich world of Soria. Traders told one another that humans must have invented invisible weapons, one so advanced they escaped even the Council's scans. No species would walk unarmed into the chamber unless they hid something, a merchant declared, his many eyes gleaming. The humans are clever. They must have secrets. On the desert moon of Traxxas, soldiers gathered in fire-lit halls. They mocked the humans, beating their armored chests with laughter. "A soldier without a weapon is nothing but a shadow," one warrior roared. "If danger comes, those humans will be the first to fall." But on the floating cities of Avira, the scholars spoke more softly. The Avira people were dreamers, their wings reflecting starlight as they glided over their glass bridges. "Perhaps," one said, "the humans know something we do not. To stand unarmed among predators may require more strength than we understand." The galaxy listened, argued, and wondered. The guards, themselves, through it all, the human guards remained silent. They did not answer the rumors. They did not laugh at the mockery, nor did they deny the suspicions. They stood their post as they always had, tall, calm, and quiet. They moved in pairs, always watchful but never aggressive. Their uniforms were simple but neat, as if polished every morning with pride. When other guards from alien species walked past them with heavy weapons strapped to their sides, the humans gave only polite nods. They carried themselves not with arrogance but with quiet dignity. Those who watched them closely began to notice small details. The way their eyes never stopped moving, studying every corner of a room, the way they stood shoulder to shoulder, as if each one trusted the others completely, the way they did not flinch, even when massive Xanthi warriors or sharp-clawed Krava soldiers brushed close. It was as if the humans carried something unseen, not a hidden weapon, but a kind of unshakable promise. The growing suspicion, but not all, were impressed. In the hidden corners of the Council's capital, wagers began to rise. Among smugglers, mercenaries, and restless warriors, a new game was whispered. Who will be the one to test the humans? Some believed the humans' secret was nothing more than bluff. Others thought the truth could only be revealed under pressure. And so, bets were placed in shadowed taverns and digital markets alike. When would the humans finally be forced to show their hand? Would they fall quickly, proving themselves weak, or would they reveal a terrifying secret weapon? The wagers reached even the ears of certain delegates. Some found amusement in the thought. Others grew worried. The council was built upon peace, yet curiosity, fear, and pride were dangerous sparks, a moment of tension. The test came sooner than anyone expected. Weeks after the first question had been asked in the chamber, the council gathered once more. This time, the topic was the Krail Dominion, a proud and restless empire known for its hunger to expand. Their ambassador spoke with a voice like thunder, demanding new trade rights that many found unfair. The discussion grew heated and tempers rose. It was then that a Krail warrior serving as a guard lost his patience. His scales glimmered red with anger as he stepped forward, gripping the long shaft of a plasma spear. The weapon hummed with deadly energy as he pointed it toward Ambassador Miles, the human envoy. Gasps filled the chamber. Even in the council, such acts were rare. The human guards did not reach for hidden devices. They did not step back. Instead, they moved as one. 4 pairs of boots struck the polished floor together. In perfect silence, they formed a wall between the ambassador and the spear. Their hands were empty. Their faces calm. Their bodies straight, no words were spoken. No threat was made. They simply stood there side by side, ready to receive the strike if it came. The weight of silence. For a long moment, the chamber froze. Delegates from across the galaxy leaned forward, waiting to see blood or hidden weapons. But none came. The Krail warrior's grip trembled. His people were strong, bred for battle, their weapons feared across the stars. Yet in that instant he felt something he could not understand. The eyes of the human guards did not show fear. They did not beg for mercy. They did not prepare to strike back. Instead, they showed only one truth. If you wish to harm her, you will go through us. The silence grew heavier than any weapon. The warrior's spear wavered, then lowered. Slowly, almost unwillingly, he stepped back. A stunned hush filled the chamber. No one spoke. Not even the chair. For the first time in many sessions, even the most warlike species were at a loss for words, whispers. Renewed, when the meeting ended, the story spread faster than light. Across the galaxy, news carried the tale. The Krail warrior had raised his weapon. The human guards had stood unarmed, and he had lowered it. The whispers grew louder. To some, it proved the humans carried hidden power, something greater than the eye could see. To others, it was proof of madness, a gamble with death. And to a few, it was something far more mysterious. A strength that was not born of steel or plasma, but of loyalty, courage, and unbreakable will. Yet still no answers came. The humans themselves said nothing. The guards returned to their posts, silent as always. A galaxy divided, now the galaxy was split. Some mocked them louder than before, calling them reckless fools who had merely been spared by chance. Others grew more curious, wondering if they had glimpsed a power not yet understood. And a few began to respect them, though they would never admit it openly. But one truth had become clear. The mystery was no longer just curiosity. It was now a challenge, a puzzle that gnawed at the minds of warriors, scholars, and leaders alike. What did the humans truly carry, if not weapons? No one knew, but all across the galaxy, eyes turned toward Earth's children, and the whispers grew into a storm. The council, once a place of calm and certainty, now buzzed with unease. The humans had not broken a single law, had not raised a single weapon, and yet with nothing but their silent presence, they had changed the balance of the chamber. And somewhere in the quiet halls of the capital, Ambassador Miles looked at her guards, calm as always. She spoke only one sentence, her voice so soft it was almost a thought. They do not understand yet, but they will. The council chamber had known many storms before. Arguments over borders, accusations of betrayal, even the shouting of warlike species who had nearly come to blows. But never had it seen what it saw that day. Human guards standing unarmed against a weapon raised in fury, and the weapon lowering without a single strike. The galaxy buzzed with the memory of it. To some, it was a story of foolish luck. To others, a sign of hidden strength. To a few, it was something deeper, though they could not yet name it. But the galaxy is not patient, and questions do not remain unanswered for long. The test was coming. Uneasy days, in the days that followed, tension grew in the great city of the council. Delegates spoke politely during meetings, but in the private halls afterward, Voices were sharper. The Krail Dominion, embarrassed by their warriors' hesitation, whispered of insult. Their people demanded proof that they had not been shamed. Other species waited, curious. Would the humans stand again if danger rose? Or had it been a single moment of chance? Ambassador Alara Miles walked calmly through the chambers, never showing fear. Her guards followed at her side, silent and watchful. They ate little, spoke even less, but their presence was felt everywhere. They became symbols, walking mysteries. Even those who mocked them could not look away. In taverns, merchants wagered over when the truth would be revealed. On warships, captains debated whether humans were reckless or brilliant. And in the council itself, some leaders began to plan tests of their own. The air was heavy with expectation. A meeting with the Dominion, the spark came from the Krail. Their pride had been wounded, and their nature allowed no wound to remain. A special session was called, one focused only on the disputes between the Dominion and the smaller colonies near its borders. The council chamber was crowded, every seat filled, every eye waiting. The Krail ambassador stood tall, his scales burning with color. His voice thundered as he spoke of rights, of strength, of history. He demanded concessions the council had refused before. His words grew hotter, sharper, like sparks striking stone. Ambassador Miles answered with calm, her voice steady as a river. She did not rise to anger. She did not shout. She spoke with reason, reminding the Chamber of Peace of shared benefit, of the purpose of the council itself. But the Krail were not a people of peace. Their warriors, lined along the walls, shifted restlessly. Their weapons hummed with hidden energy, and among them stood one who could not endure the silence any longer. The warrior steps forward. The warrior was young by Krail standards, but his blood burned with pride. He remembered the shame of his comrade who had lowered the spear weeks before. He remembered the whispers in his barracks, the laughter of rivals. He would not let it stand. As the humans finished their statement, he stepped forward. His spear snapped to life, glowing with fire. He pointed it directly at Ambassador Miles. Gasps filled the chamber again. The chair raised a hand, but the warrior's voice boomed before order could be restored. You speak of peace, human, but you hide behind guards who do nothing. Show us your strength or fall in weakness. The chamber froze. Delegates leaned forward. Every eye turned once more to the humans. The guards moved without hesitation. The human guards stepped forward. Their boots struck the floor together, echoing like a heartbeat. They moved not in fear, but in certainty, as if they had practiced this moment 1,000 times. They placed themselves in front of their ambassador, shoulder to shoulder, forming a living wall. Their hands were empty, their eyes steady. The Krail warrior snarled. No weapons, no armor. Do you think your flesh can stop me? The guards did not answer. They simply stood, unyielding. The warrior's spear hummed louder. The delegates waited, breath held. Would blood fall? Would the humans finally reveal hidden technology? Or would they truly die with nothing in their hands? The trial of fire, the Krail lunged, his spear flashed forward with speed and fury. Gas rang out. Some delegates covered their faces. Others leaned forward in horror. But the humans did not break. 2 guards stepped directly into the path, their bodies forming a shield before their envoy. Their uniforms glowed with the reflection of the spear's energy. The tip stopped just short of their chests. The warrior trembled. His spear shook, but he could not drive it forward. The eyes of the humans held him in place, eyes calm, fearless, unshaken. You will not pass, one guard said softly. His voice was quiet, but it carried across the chamber like thunder. The silence that followed was heavier than stone. The warrior's fall. The Krail warrior's rage faltered. His breath came hard, his scales dimming. The spear wavered, then fell. He dropped to one knee, not from defeat in battle, but from something heavier, shame. In that moment, the council saw what no weapon could show. The humans had not moved with violence. They had not threatened or struck. Yet they had stopped the spear, not with strength of arm, but with strength of spirit. The chamber erupted in voices. Some shouted in anger, others in awe. The chair struck the gong again and again until silence returned. Words of truth. The chair looked at the humans, his shimmering form bending like smoke in wind. You stand unarmed before death. You do not strike, you do not flee. Why? For the first time, one of the guards spoke at length. His voice was steady, deep, carrying to every corner of the chamber. Because we are not here to fight. Our weapons are not steel or plasma. Our strength is our vow. We are shields, not blades. If harm must come, it comes to us first. That is the promise we carry, and it is stronger than any weapon you could place in our hands." His words hung in the air, simple but unshakable. The chamber reacts. Some delegates scoffed, unwilling to accept such an answer. "Foolishness," one hissed. "Words will not stop a blade." Others sat in silence, troubled by what they had seen. The Avira scholar, her feathers shining like crystal, whispered, "It is not the absence of weapons that unsettles us. It is the absence of fear." The Xanthi war chief clenched his armored fists but said nothing, for in his heart he knew the truth of courage when he saw it. And the Krail ambassador, red with humiliation, lowered his gaze. Even he could not deny that his warrior had been stopped without a single strike. The lesson begins. When the session ended, the council left in uneasy silence. The story spread even faster than before, carried by every tongue, every channel of news, every whisper in every starport. Some still mocked, but their laughter sounded weaker now. Others began to wonder if perhaps the humans had shown a strength the galaxy had forgotten. A strength not of weapons but of will. The humans themselves said nothing more. Their guards returned to their posts, silent as stone, carrying only their vow. But the galaxy had seen them, and the galaxy could not forget. The trial of fire had come, and the humans had stood unbroken. The council chamber had grown quieter in the days that followed the trial of fire, yet the silence was not peace. It was the silence of thoughts, of questions, of unease. The galaxy had seen human guards face death with no weapons in their hands. They had seen them stop a warrior not with violence but with courage, and still many could not understand. Some delegates whispered that the humans were reckless, relying only on luck. Others said their courage was admirable, but foolish in a galaxy where plasma cannons and razor claws ruled. Yet more and more voices began to wonder if perhaps humanity's strength was not what they carried, but what they refused to carry. The chair of the council, who had lived through centuries of conflict, knew the time for half-answers was over. Curiosity had become unrest, and unrest could easily become danger. If the mystery was not explained, it might fracture the council itself, and so another special session was called. One with only a single question on the table. Why do human diplomatic guards carry no weapons? The gathering, the chamber, was filled to the edge that day. Every seat was taken, and the galleries above overflowed with citizens, soldiers, and scholars who had come to witness history. The hum of countless languages echoed off the crystal walls, filling the vast dome with sound. When the gong of order rang, the voices fell into silence. The chair's shimmering form rose from the circle of light. "Humans of Earth," the chair said, his voice carrying to every corner. "You have been asked once before, and you answered with mystery. You have been tested, and you stood unbroken. But the council cannot live on riddles. Today we ask you plainly, speak now and reveal to us the truth of your ways." Every eye turned toward the humans. Ambassador Alara Miles rose slowly. Her gray-streaked hair caught the light, her calm expression unchanged. At her side stood her 4 guards, hands folded, eyes steady. She looked at them for a long moment before turning back to the chamber. "The truth," she said softly, "is not complicated, but it is difficult for some to accept." A guard speaks. The ambassador paused, then looked at the guards behind her. With a nod, she invited one of them to step forward. It was a man named Captain Darius Hale, tall and broad-shouldered, with eyes as steady as stone. He walked to the circle of light and bowed his head respectfully to the chair. His voice, when he spoke, was calm, deep, and simple. "We carry no weapons," he said, "because we already carry our vow." The chamber stirred. Some muttered in frustration. Others leaned forward in interest. Captain Hale continued, "A weapon can be broken. A rifle can be taken. A blade can be dulled. But a vow lives in the heart. It cannot be stolen. It cannot be shattered. It is stronger than any steel." He looked around the chamber, meeting the eyes of beings who towered above him, of creatures with claws and fangs, of machines that gleamed with power. His gaze did not waver. "We are not here to fight," he said. "We are not here to kill. We are here to protect. That is our only purpose. If harm must come, it comes to us first. If danger rises, we stand between it and the one we guard. That is the promise we have made. And no weapon in the galaxy is heavier than that promise." Reactions in the chamber. The words fell like stones into a still pond, rippling outward. Some delegates scoffed immediately. "Empty words," one hissed. "A vow will not stop a spear." But others sat in silence, troubled by the memory of what they had seen. The spear had been stopped. Not by force, but by something invisible. The Avira scholar, her crystal feathers glowing faintly, whispered, "It was not the body that stopped the weapon. It was the spirit," the Xanthi war chief grunted. "They are unarmed, yet they do not fear death. That alone unsettles even my strongest warriors." The Krail ambassador, still ashamed from his warrior's failure, kept his eyes low. His pride burned, but even he could not deny that his soldier had been unable to strike. The ambassador explains. Ambassador Miles stepped forward once more, her voice gentle but firm. "Many of you have known war for centuries," she said. "Your people carry scars as heavy as your weapons. You measure strength by firepower, by armor, by how many enemies you can defeat. But humans, we have learned another measure of strength." She let the silence linger, then continued. "Our history is filled with conflict, like yours. We have fought wars, we have built weapons, we have known destruction, but we have also learned that sometimes the strongest shield is not the one made of metal, but the one made of sacrifice. Our guards do not carry weapons because their lives are their weapons. Their promise is their armor. Their loyalty is their blade. They will not strike first, but they will never step aside. That is what we bring to this council. Not guns, not swords, but vows that cannot be broken." A heavy silence. The chamber was utterly still. Even those who disagreed found no words for a long moment. The delegates had expected hidden technology, clever tricks or secret devices. Instead, they had been given something simple, something ancient, something that every species understood in its own way but had long forgotten. The silence was heavy, but not empty. It was filled with thought. Finally, the chair spoke again. "You say your strength is your vow. But what if your vow costs you your life?" "What then?" Captain Hale answered without hesitation. "Then we give it, because that is the weight of the promise we carry. A new understanding." The words spread through the chamber like fire. Some looked away, uncomfortable. Some sat straighter as if recalling something lost. And some, though they would not admit it aloud, felt a flicker of respect they could not deny. The Avira scholar bowed her head. "Perhaps we have forgotten. Perhaps weapons have blinded us to older truths." The Xanthi war chief crossed his arms but gave a slow nod. "Even the strongest armor cannot replace the courage of one who stands unbroken." The Krail ambassador remained silent, but in his heart, a seed of doubt began to grow. Beyond the council, when the session ended, the city outside erupted with voices. News spread to every corner of the galaxy. On the desert moon of Traxxas, warriors debated in firelit halls, some laughing still, others sitting in thoughtful silence. On the floating cities of Avira, scholars began writing new works on the philosophy of strength, inspired by what they had heard. Even among smugglers and mercenaries, who had wagered on the humans' downfall, there was a grudging respect. They had bet on weapons, but the humans had shown something far harder to measure. The whispers changed. No longer were they only mocking or suspicious. Now some carried admiration, others carried unease, and some carried something close to hope. A quiet moment. That night, in the quiet halls of the human quarters, Ambassador Miles walked with her guards. She looked at them, their faces calm, their uniforms still neat though the day had been long. "You have carried the weight well," she said softly. Captain Hale bowed his head. "It is the vow we chose, Ambassador." For a moment her eyes softened. "They will not all understand. Some will still laugh, some will still doubt, but the seed has been planted," he nodded. "In time they will see." And in the silence that followed, the galaxy seemed a little different. Not safer, not calmer, but touched by a truth older than stars, that sometimes the strongest thing one can carry is not a weapon, but a promise. The beginning of change. In the weeks that followed, small changes began to appear. A few delegations entered the council with guards carrying fewer weapons. Some even dismissed their weapons entirely, as if testing what it felt like to stand as the humans did. The galaxy did not transform overnight. Wars still brewed and old rivalries still burned, but something had shifted. A new idea had taken root, one not of steel or fire, but of loyalty and sacrifice. And though the humans spoke little, their silence carried louder than any speech, because now, The galaxy had begun to understand why human diplomatic guards carried no weapons, and the lesson was not yet finished. The revelation of the humans had spread like a wave across the galaxy. What began as whispers in the chamber had now reached worlds where sunlight touched golden deserts, icy moons, and cities floating on oceans of crystal. Everywhere, beings spoke of the humans' vow. Some laughed, some argued, but none ignored it. The idea was dangerous not because it threatened war, but because it threatened old beliefs. For ages, most species had measured strength by weapons, by armor, by the ability to destroy. Now the humans had stood before the galaxy and claimed that the greatest strength was not destruction, but protection. It was not a weapon that made a soldier strong, they said. It was the promise to stand firm, even at the cost of one's life. A divided galaxy. The galaxy itself seemed divided. On military worlds, many mocked the humans. Let us see how long their courage lasts when war comes, they said, sharpening their claws and polishing their rifles. To them, the vow of the humans was noble perhaps, but useless. But in temples and schools, philosophers spoke of the lesson with wonder. They told their students, "The humans have remembered something we lost. To defend without seeking to destroy, that is not weakness, but a higher kind of strength." Even among ordinary people, the story spread. A farmer on a distant colony repeated the tale to his children, and they listened with wide eyes. A healer on a medical station whispered it to her patients, giving them comfort. A miner deep underground told it to his companions, and they worked with new courage. The humans had not meant to create a movement, yet their silence, their calmness, their vow, these things had planted seeds in countless hearts. The council tested again. The true test came not long after. It began during another tense meeting, this time with the Dravari Confederation, a species known for their cunning and cold logic. They had long distrusted the council, believing that peace was an illusion. To them, diplomacy was simply another kind of battlefield. That day, their ambassador spoke of betrayal and threatened to leave the council altogether. Their guards stood tall, armored and armed with long blades that shimmered with deadly energy. The chamber felt like a storm waiting to break. Once again, the humans stood among them, calm, unarmed, silent. Perhaps it was inevitable. Perhaps the galaxy could not let the mystery rest without one final test. A Dravari guard stepped forward suddenly. His blade gleamed as he lifted it, pointing straight at the heart of Ambassador Miles. His voice hissed through the chamber. "If your vow is stronger than weapons, prove it. Stand against this!" The chamber erupted in gasps. Delegates leaned forward, eyes wide. Some expected blood. Others expected hidden technology to finally reveal itself. Everyone expected the humans to falter. The human wall. But the guards moved as they always had, without hesitation. 4 figures stepped together, forming a shield of living bodies before their ambassador. Their uniforms caught the chamber light, but their hands remained empty. Their eyes did not blink, they did not threaten. They did not plead. They simply stood, ready to give their lives if the blade struck. The Dravari guard's weapon trembled. For a long moment he stared into their eyes. There was no anger in them, no fear, only calm resolve. The chamber held its breath, and then slowly, the blade lowered. The guard stepped back, shaken, though he did not understand why. His weapon had been sharper than any steel. His training had been harder than stone. Yet he could not strike. Something unseen held him back. The weight of their vow, the silent power of their promise. The revelation spreads, the chamber filled with whispers. It was the second time. 2 warriors from 2 different empires had raised their weapons against humans, and both had lowered them without a strike. Some delegates still shook their heads in disbelief. "This is madness," one muttered. "Luck cannot last forever," but others began to understand. The humans had not needed to strike because their strength was not in weapons. It was in the certainty of sacrifice, in their willingness to give everything for the one they protected. The Avira scholar rose, her feathers glowing like crystal rain. She spoke softly, yet her voice carried. "I see now. The humans are not unarmed. Their weapon is invisible, but it is real. It is loyalty. It is devotion. It is the courage to stand when others would fall. That is why their enemies cannot strike." The chamber stirred again. but this time with awe more than doubt. The chair's words. The chair of the council struck the gong, calling for silence. His shimmering form bent forward, his voice like wind through glass. "Humans of Earth," he said, "today you have given us more than answers. You have given us a lesson we did not expect to learn. We who measure strength by the sharpness of our claws and the fire of our cannons have been reminded that there is another kind of strength, one that lies not in destruction but in protection, not in fear but in courage, not in weapons but in vows." He paused, letting the words settle into every corner of the chamber. May the galaxy remember this lesson. May it remind us that peace is not held by the strongest weapon, but by those willing to stand between danger and the innocent. Humanity has brought us more than diplomacy. You have brought us the memory of what it means to promise, and to keep that promise even unto death. The chamber fell silent, then slowly filled with the sound of approval, soft at first, then growing louder. Not all agreed. Some still doubted, but many felt something shift within themselves. Seeds of change in the weeks and months that followed. Change began to spread. On some worlds, guards laid aside their weapons when standing in courts or councils, choosing instead to stand as the humans did. They did not all succeed, and many returned to their arms quickly. But the attempt itself was a sign. On others, philosophers wrote of the human vow, studying its meaning, debating whether it could truly hold against the weight of war. And in quiet places, ordinary people repeated the story to their families, reminding one another that strength was not only in power, but in love, loyalty, and sacrifice. The humans had not conquered worlds, had not shown weapons, had not raised armies, yet they had changed the galaxy in a way no war ever could. A quiet walk one evening, Ambassador Miles walked the gardens of the council's city. The twin suns were setting, painting the sky with gold and violet. Her guards walked at her side, silent as always. She paused beside a fountain, listening to the sound of water. For a moment, she let the calm wash over her. Then she looked at her guards. "They are beginning to see," she said softly. Captain Hale, ever steady, gave a small nod. "Not all, not yet. But enough," she smiled faintly. "That is all we hoped for. Not to change the galaxy in a day, only to plant the seed." The guards said nothing more, but their silence was full of meaning. The lesson remembered years later, long after that day had passed. The galaxy still told the story. Children on distant colonies acted out the scene, one holding a stick as a spear, while others stood unarmed before their friend, showing courage. Teachers used the lesson in their schools. Leaders remembered it in their councils, and in the halls of the Galactic Council itself, where banners of peace hung from shining walls, there remained a tradition. Every time a new species joined the council, every time new guards stepped into the chamber, they were told the story of the humans. They were told why some chose to carry no weapons, and the words were repeated again and again until they became almost a prayer. Because some promises are stronger than any blade.